The following is a Fourth Hand production.
Hey, everybody. I was looking over there. Welcome in.
What's over there, Kevin?
A beer. Welcome into Sad Times. Thanks for coming in. For those of you who've been here before, welcome back. For those of you who haven't, just to get a quick description of the show. Basically, I have a guest on every week, somebody who I'm close to in my life, so far at least, where we talk about kind of any number of things, but it's always kind of history of what makes them sad, when they've been sad, how they've acted when they were sad, also how, it's affected their families and how it affects their daily life. Because I believe that a lot of people don't, I think, deal with this a lot. I know I do. And I think if we talked about it a little more, it would probably lead to maybe a little less pressure, a little less, pain, and a little more empathy. So that's kind of the whole thing here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce my good buddy, Jason. Hey, Jason.
Hey.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. You?
I'm doing well, man.
Good.
So we've known each other, what, a little over 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah. So we worked together, and I used to see you bopping around the office, but we didn't talk. You'd always walk by me, go to the kitchen. And
Happy birthday to you.
Oh, Christ.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Kevin. Happy birthday to you. You know what you can't see is Marilyn Monroe is kissing your face and singing to you right now.
Oh, that's so nice of her. Well, that's the show, everybody. No.
Can we talk about how that made me sad?
It made me sad, too.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
I'm old. I'm 37. Can you
are.
believe that? So we started talking about books.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, by the way. That was very nice, everyone. And we've gotten to know each other. We kind of figured out, correct me if I'm wrong on this, we kind of figured out we're kind of wired in a lot of the same ways.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So we kind of check in with each other every
Mm-hmm.
once in a while. I know when I'm having a tough day, I can go to you and be like, man, I'm just kind of having a hard time. So when I approached you about being on the show, you were pretty enthusiastic about it.
Absolutely.
So let's go ahead and get into it. So tell me about where'd you go? You've told me you're from like 4 places. So
So
tell me about where you started.
born in San Antonio, Texas. So both my parents were in the Air Force stationed in San Antonio. So that's where I grew up. Lived there till I was about 5. That's when my parents divorced.
Okay. Oh.
And then
Ding, ding, ding.
ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
And then my mom and I moved to Baltimore, and that's where I lived. Until,
Now I get it.
The college years.
And your dad stayed in San Antonio.
Yeah, stayed in San Antonio till about like 20 years ago. He moved to Vegas. 20 years ago? Yeah, something like that.
You're old.
I am. This is true.
I
I think they're talking about Kevin.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, he's older than I am, guys. So, okay. So your parents got divorced when you were 5. Do you remember times with them together?
Yeah. It was always tense, I think is the right word for it. My dad really struggles a lot with how to appropriately show emotion, specifically anger, right? Like I think it almost seems like he has one emotion, and that's anger. Like everything comes out as anger.
He wasn't the type who gave you a hug or pat on the back or anything, or he kind of did that?
He would, but that was less frequent than that. And the other thing to consider with this too is my parents kind of worked split schedules. So my dad worked overnights a lot, and then my mom worked during the day. So
and you had no siblings with them?
No siblings.
Yeah. So it was just you and them, and so you would be alone with your mom at night then?
Yeah, most nights I was alone with my mom. If my dad was home, he was usually asleep in his lounger by like 8:30.
Watching TV?
Yeah.
So you said he didn't really appropriately or correctly show anger. What do you think is the correct way to show anger?
That's a good question. There are... So what I mean by inappropriate displays of anger is that they were always violent. right?
Oh,
Like
okay.
it was explosive. It was just completely over the top. There was no like rationale behind it.
And would it start at that level, or
Oh, yeah.
it would,
I mean,
it would
it
not
was-
build. It would
no,
not be like I
it-
told you to stop that.
No, it was at 100, like from the very beginning. Like, I can give you like a really prime example.
Please
of
do.
this. So one of my earliest memories, I'm probably three and a half, and I can remember this. Like I could close my eyes right now, set the whole scene, like see the whole scene. I'm sitting in the living room of our house,
Okay.
watching television.
Mm-hmm.
My dad is outside working on the car.
Uh-huh.
And my mom goes to the front door and calls out to him that dinner's ready. Comes back in, goes into another room. I'm not sure what she's doing in the other room. My dad comes in about 15 minutes later.
Oh, so he doesn't immediately come in.
No.
Okay.
He comes in about 15 minutes
And
later.
she had set dinner out?
Mhm.
Okay.
She had set dinner out. He comes in, takes one bite of the food, and the next thing I hear is the dining room chair topple over. And he takes the plate and throws it across the kitchen against the garage door. Just
Oh.
flung it and
It shattered?
Yeah,
Why?
just because the dinner was cold.
The dinner was cold, so he threw that. Did he then yell at your mom?
He did well. So this is the part where I kind of don't really have a ton of memory about.
Yeah.
Right? I remember that he kind of turns, sees me there. At that point, I get up and run from the room and go into my bedroom and close the door. And I would hide in like the windows in my bedroom were floor to ceiling, but they were very skinny. So
Okay.
I could stand in there like shoulder to shoulder, and I was behind the blinds.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
You were 3.5, you
Yeah,
said? So you
yeah.
would get under the blinds and
Mhm.
stand there, and you would be terrified that he would
Mhm.
come in?
Yeah.
Would he ever come in there? That you remember?
Not that I remember. No.
And that night, he did.
He didn't. No
Yeah.
one ever came into the room that night.
And when he turned,
Mm-hmm.
did he just have that
Yeah,
look of rage?
yeah, like he was looking for the next point of attack.
Was there something else going on?
I don't know. I mean, my dad just does not. He's essentially had an undiagnosed anxiety disorder his entire life. You know,
How did that manifest? How did that show?
it's in the anger. It's also in just his inability to kind of cope with emotions, cope with sadness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he takes Valium for a quote unquote spastic colon. But
Wait a minute. He takes Valium for his colon?
Yeah, but
That's amazing.
that's what he says it's for.
Oh, yes.
But in high stress situations, you can watch him pop them like they're candy.
and at this time, he wasn't on anything.
No, he wasn't on anything at the time. And he never really got treatment for this. And I think it's because after he left the military, he went to work for NSA. He had a very high security clearance.
Uh-huh.
And I think in his mind, the fear was if he got help and he had to admit
Oh,
this to someone,
they would take
going
that
to take
away.
his security clearance.
You know, I know of a friend of mine who, his friend, struggles really bad with depression, was having a really bad go of it, like really bad. And military man, and he did not want to seek help either because he was afraid they were going to take that away from him.
Yeah.
That is troubling.
Yeah, it is.
So
So true.
Yeah.
so
Massive epidemic.
yeah, Brock's a veteran.
Mm.
So and that's just fucked up.
Yeah.
And so this was in San Antonio.
This was in San Antonio.
Was he on a base?
Yeah, Randolph Air Force Base.
Okay.
That's where they were both stationed.
Now, was your dad in a war?
In Vietnam, he was in Thailand. So he wasn't in Vietnam. He did comms. He did comms from Thailand.
Okay. So, did your dad ever hit you?
Yes, there were. There were a few occasions that I remember being spanked. You know, most of it's just your typical like.
Well, there's a.
What, Brock?
So when you think about that contact, is there a difference in your mind between being spanked and how you're spanked, and and being hit, I'm very interested because as a parent, you know, you try to understand the psychology and what's going on in the child's mind, and like you use the word spanked, which that was like because we started off with did he ever hit you? And so I'm really interested.
Well, it's interesting.
I know that he didn't just hit you with his hand.
Yeah, so that's what the majority of it was.
Yeah.
So that's what I would consider spanking.
Yeah.
There was one time when I was about 5 or 6. My dad was at work. I had kind of mouthed off to the babysitter because I was 5, and that's what 5-year-olds do.
Yeah.
I got home. My dad told me to go in his bedroom and wait for him. And he came in with a chunk of 2x4 that was about 2 foot long. And he had me bend over the bed and kind of like grip the sheets with my hands. And he whacked me twice
And
with the 2x4.
why the 2x4?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that there's any rationale.
Did you
for
feel
that.
a lot of? I never got hit with a 2x4. Did you feel a lot of shame when that happened?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Was he saying something to you?
No, like there was no communication. The oddest part of the memory, I think, is after he's done, he sat down on the bed and started to cry.
He started to cry.
Yeah, well, of course I was crying too because I just got hit with 2x4.
Do you think he felt genuinely bad about doing it?
I don't know. I struggle with that because I don't know that he knows how to feel bad.
What do you mean by that?
He doesn't really take ownership for where he has kind of failed or gone wrong.
And that's just with you or just in any part
I think
of his
in
life?
general, I think as he's gotten older, he's like 67 now. He's starting to like...
do you guys have a relationship
No,
now?
I mean, we maybe text 4 times a year. There's like no conversations, or I haven't seen him in 10 years.
Really?
Last time I saw him. Yeah.
Did something happen then?
No. It's just we've always kind of had this really odd relationship. I spent every summer with him until I was 18. And then after that, I kind of would go maybe every other year to go see him. I think as I got older, and there was a moment that was kind of the tipping point. And this was actually about 10 years ago, not long after I met my now wife. My dad would always be like, I'm coming to like visit you or, whatever it's going to be. And they would never like manifest, right?
He would never show up.
No, so I would like build up my like excitement about it, and then he would just let me down, right? So about 10 years ago, I'm teaching in DC at the time, and my dad had to come into DC for a work conference. It's like, great, I'm teaching in downtown. Let's grab some dinner afterwards. He's like, yeah, great. This is a hotel I'm staying at. Fantastic. I'll hop on the metro and come meet you. So I get on the metro after class, ride over to the hotel, walk in and said, yeah, I'm looking for James Weaver. Can you tell me what room he's in? He type it up. I'm sorry, did you say James? I was like, oh, yeah, it might be under Jim. Can you check? I'm sorry, sir. We don't have a Jim or James Weaver here. So I go, that's weird. So I call the house. My stepmother answers the phone, and I was like, hey, I'm at the hotel. Do you know where Dad is? And she goes, oh, my God, that son of a bitch. He didn't tell you. He didn't go. Yeah.
He didn't tell you?
No, he didn't tell me.
Wait, when did you have the conversation with him about going to dinner?
Like a week beforehand.
Okay.
Yeah, he didn't tell me that he didn't go. Didn't get on the plane.
Did he? Why?
So,
well, I guess that doesn't.
Why didn't he tell me, or why didn't he get on the plane?
Why didn't he tell you?
Is
that a confrontation thing? He can't do that?
Yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
Why he didn't get on the plane, I think that all goes back to his anxiety. Like, he struggles with travel. Like, getting on the plane is just very difficult.
Even though he had to do this for work, he found a way out.
He was sick. He couldn't get on the plane.
Okay.
Now, he's sick a lot.
Your dad's sick a lot. Well, he's got a spastic colon, Jason.
I had a spastic colon. He uses sickness as his way out of things a lot.
So did you talk to him?
Yeah.
that night?
So, I mean, I don't know if you call it fate or whatever. My phone ran out of battery before he had a chance to call me. But he did leave me a message and, super apologetic. It's like classic abusive relationship sort of shit, like, oh, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Okay, I'll give you another chance. And it just all happens over again. And really, like, for me, that was the breaking point.
Okay.
Right?
And
like, I've said, I'm not going to, like, that and years of therapy have kind of helped me get to this point where it's like, I don't need to have a relationship with him. We haven't really had a relationship. My frustration comes from a lot of things, but is even amped now with the fact that he has 2 grandchildren that he's never met, right?
These are your 2 sons?
Yeah, my kids. So
he's never met your kids?
No.
Does he ask about them?
He does. He sends them gifts, but he's never met them.
That sounds like... Now, my father has met my grandson. My nephew, his grandson.
Yeah, that's good.
But he hasn't seen him for 4.5 years.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. He'll send gifts.
Yeah.
They'll talk on the phone.
Yeah.
1 minute for birthday, 1 minute for Christmas. I don't understand it.
Wow.
It doesn't make any sense.
No.
So when you decided, okay, I'm done with this.
Yeah.
You grew up spending summers with him.
Mm-hmm.
Was there like a real sadness about that, about saying, I'm going to leave this behind? Or were you just so done with it?
I think that there was a small, like, mourning process, but, my therapist and I did a lot of work through this. And I got to a point where I just said, there's nothing really to grieve because there wasn't a relationship there to begin with.
Even with the summers, like during the summer?
No, because I never saw him. Right? He would work 12 hours a day, get home at 8 o'clock, and he's asleep by 8:30.
Was anybody watching you?
No. I was just kind of on my own.
Okay. Were you a lonely kid there?
Yeah, I mean, I just spent all my days inside the house. So it was
watching TV,
playing video games, watching TV.
Yeah. And okay, so what about your mom? And I know we were talking about the summers with your dad, but your mom, you said she worked during the day, she was there at night. What was your relationship like with her?
Your dad, Dan Crispin.
Yeah.
There are a lot of goddamn similarities.
Yeah.
My mom, that's another thing. So my mom is also like a go to bed at 8:30. She grew up on a farm. Like, this is just.
I remember there's the old picture you showed me where she looks like a Russian peasant working
on the farm.
Yeah.
So bed at 8:30, up at 4:30, right? That's just her. So even when she would get home at 5, right? It's dinner and then, not much. She's watching TV or whatever. I'm playing, and then she would go to bed, and I would stay up by myself, even at like 2, 3, 4.
Really?
5 years old. Yeah. Even when we moved to Baltimore, I would stay up by myself.
That's right, because when they split up. Yeah.
And I'd put myself to bed most nights. When we lived in Texas, it was typically in their bed. My mom and I would sleep in the same bed. My dad would usually sleep in his recliner.
He'd sleep the whole night? Mm-hmm. No, seriously, is your dad my dad? Because that's just another thing. I swear to God. Okay, so did you talk to your mom about your dad ever?
No, she doesn't. I've kind of brought some of this stuff up over the years, but neither one of my parents deal well with emotions. Like, my mother is just very cold. I think a lot of it is that's how my grandfather was. Her farmer. Father. Yeah, didn't talk much. Yeah. Emotions are not something we deal with. So I bring it up, and she would always turn her back around, but but look at your stepdad. Like, things are great with him. It was always like, we're not going to talk about this.
So, you would try to talk to her about your dad when she was remarried, and she'd say, but you have a lovely parental figure here.
Yeah.
And when you were a kid, would you go to her if you were hurt or something?
Yeah, both of my parents struggled with...
a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I will never forget one of the most poignant moments in therapy is kind of going through some of this stuff and my therapist looking at me and go, Jason, you realize you were neglected as a child, right? Like, that thought had never crossed my mind. But as we kind of talked through some of this stuff and the the shit that I was just kind of left on my, like putting myself to bed every night
crazy.
when I'm 2-3 years old. I got heat stroke like twice because my dad just left me out on the porch riding my big wheel. First time.
Wait, how old?
I was 3 when that happened. I got a heat stroke. My dad found me laying on the porch, Texas summer, so it's like 115.
Yeah.
I'm outside riding my big wheel. He finds me toppled over on the side, brings me inside. My mom gets home from work, and my dad is holding me on the couch, like my body just completely limp, with just like crying hysterically because he thinks I'm dead. What would a normal person do?
Did he call somebody?
No.
He didn't call anybody?
No.
How long was he there with you before your mom got
Like
home?
2-3 hours.
You were passed out for 2 or 3 hours and he didn't call anybody?
No. My mom came home. They still didn't call anybody. My mom just went and got a cold cloth and put it on my head.
Tots is giving you both hugs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tots.
So that's a really powerful thing that your therapist said.
Yeah.
The neglected thing, because that I don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that was probably the toughest like therapy session I ever had, because then I had to wrestle with that. And that just brought all kinds of like, memories to my mind. The heat stroke event. I remember I sliced Texas has this like really weird grass that grows super tall, and it's extremely sharp on the edges. So like any normal kid, I'm out there running my fingers at it to see what happened. Slice my finger out, like you could see the muscle, right? Like it was a deep cut. I'm bleeding really bad. I come inside. My mom's watching television. I'm trying to get her attention to show her that I'm like bleeding out. And she looks at me and she goes, I'm watching my soap opera. Can you wait until the commercial?
Had she seen the...
Yeah, she did. She did.
So did you just wait?
I waited. And then we went in the bathroom and wrapped it up.
Which was it, As the World Turned? No, I got it.
No, it was Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
Days of Our Lives.
Listen, I can understand letting you bleed out to the commercial for All My Children, but not Days of Our Lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think you're still angry? Are you angry at them? Or is that something that could,
I'm not
forgiving and things
I'm
like that?
not angry anymore. Like I do think that it's extremely fucked up. I think a lot of my like struggles with worthlessness and like, depression and anxiety that I've battled over the years are just a result of a lot of this. But I'm also smart enough to know that there were circumstances that led them to this place, right? Yeah. My father worked within the military industrial complex that said you're a cog in the wheel and that's all you'll ever be. And one misstep and you're out, My mom worked extremely hard on a farm growing up with a father that showed no emotion, that nothing was ever good enough for him. So right there's a background to what happened to them. But at the end of the day, what happened to me as a 2 through 5 year old is just fucked up and shouldn't happen to any child.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that. Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that you met your current wife about 10 years ago or so, but you were married before then.
Yes.
Okay, so your first wife, how did you meet her?
We went to college together. We lived in a co-ed house together.
Okay. Wait, you lived in a house together? Yeah,
it was the college I went to was on an old farm just outside of Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And the farmhouse was still on the property.
Okay.
And they had turned it into dorms.
Okay.
And the guys lived on the bottom floor and girls lived on the top floor.
Okay. So you met her. How long did you guys date?
A couple years. Yeah, probably 2 years.
And then you got married. And how long were you guys married?
7 years.
Why didn't that work out?
There's a lot of things, but I think it's looking back at it. It's you're getting out of college. It's time to get married. Oh, this is the person you're with. Okay, get married. But I don't think that we ever really clicked, right? I think it was just like, this is the person that you're with at the time. I think that our relationship was always very strained. A week after we got married, we moved to Dayton, Ohio, so I could start my master's degree. Like, knew no one, lived in like a 500 square foot dorm room, essentially, for lack of a better way of describing it. And, there was just a lot of resentment built up during those 2 years.
Resentment, but was she resenting you because you lived in, because you had to go to Dayton and you were living in such a small place? Yeah. And it was all for, was she saying it's all for you and what you're doing? Yeah. And she held that against you? Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And so I just think that there was no recovery from that. Now, did she, people always say, women marry their dads, guys marry their moms, right? Now, it sounds like to me, would she get angry? Yeah, she would absolutely get angry. What would make her angry? Just about anything, right? And I think that the anger was more directed at the situation and like where we were, and that resentment kind of building up in that too. And, a left master's degree program went almost directly into a PhD program, where I'm in the library 12 hours a day and nothing was ever moving fast enough. Yeah. And so like the smallest little things would just like, what was she? Was she working? She was working. I can't even remember. She was like a project manager. So similar to the work you do there, Kevin. So she was sad. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, there's absolutely some of that. Yeah. But she dealt with depression. Her mother was manic depressive. I think that she also suffered from. Would she have like real? So I don't know as much. Is that like she had really high highs? She was very high highs and very low lows. And if the circumstances were right, like she would just get extremely violent, like throwing stuff, glasses breaking, those sort of kicking door, putting holes in walls, like. Just over maybe a normal marital fight? Yeah, normal marital fight. Yeah. Yeah. So what, were you just tired of the fighting? What made you want to leave? No, she actually left. She left me. I think that, she finally just realized that, enough was enough. She was miserable. And I tell people who ask me this about it all the time, what's it like getting divorced? And I was miserable for about a week. And then after that week, I said, wow, fuck, I was miserable too. Right? So it was pretty clear. It was easy to like begin the transition. So you were able to get through the divorce. Was it a messy time? No, very amicable. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good. And okay. So you didn't have it. Yeah. Okay. That's good. That's good. Great. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
Most people agree that you need an older sister.
Well, by most people, do you mean one person?
That you need an older sister?
No, I have an older sister.
There might be someone suggesting that he has an older sister and a few other people that might have weighed in.
Saying that Jason needs an older sister.
Oh, yes. That his life would have been better if he had an older sister.
Yeah, I think interesting. Well, the neglect, first of all, right? Putting yourself to bed at 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Think about it. Like, my sister's 3.5 years older than me. Even to have a 7-year-old or 7 to be like, come on. Yeah. Come on, Kevin.
Let's go to bed.
Would your mom say goodnight? Or would she just be like...
she'd say goodnight and go to bed, and I'd turn on the HBO because that's what a 4-year-old does.
Oh, yeah. HBO. What were you watching? Like, let's see, it was like 82? Lord, well, Nuns on the Run wasn't on yet. So I don't know what you're watching.
Now they're debating.
A lot of cartoons.
They're debating your comments on the relief of divorce. Some people completely agree with you. Yeah. Other people are saying that it can be life-shattering.
No, it absolutely can be. I think if you have a mindset that the relationship is working well or things are going well, or, if you like, there's just that mentality that everything's great and it kind of comes out of nowhere. Absolutely, it can be. But nothing really changed for me, right? Like my life went on, right? I'm still going to school. I'm still doing all this stuff. And what I realized was I didn't have this cloud like hanging over me, telling me everything I was doing wrong at every turn.
And you talked about worthlessness earlier. Did that just make you think more and more that you were worthless, or did you finally say, no, that's bullshit?
No, I mean, I was very, like, the worthlessness was just very ingrained in me at that point. You know, going back to like the neglect stuff from my childhood, when I got accepted into my PhD program, you know, well, even before that, I call my mom up and say, hey, Mom, you know, I'm finished with a master's degree. I think this is what I'm going to do next.
What'd you get your master's in?
Theology. And then my mom, I'd tell her, I go, you know, Mom, I'm done with the master's degree. I think I'm going with PhD now. She goes, Jason, are you sure you're really not that smart?
She didn't say that. Did she really?
Yeah.
Not in a joke? Like,
No.
that's a joke my mom would make. No, not
word for word.
She meant that.
Yeah, she meant that.
And what did you say to that?
I didn't say anything because I didn't know how to react. So, like, this mindset...
Did you say, I'm smart enough to know that all my children's better?
The General Hospital.
God damn it. Denzel Washington. Oh, that was St. Elsewhere. Never mind.
Yeah, that really... But I think at that point, that was just... Because that was also, like, just drilled into me from my mom, like, all through school growing up. Because I never did well in school. Like, conventional school does not work for me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it just doesn't work for me. So I never did, like, C's and D's. Like, I never did well in school.
And when she would tell you that you're...
Yeah. Like, what are you doing, dummy? So, you know, and that really hampered me, like, when I did get into the PhD program. You know, I got in, always felt like I never belonged, always felt like everyone else in the room was smarter than I was. So that made it all the more I always felt like I had to work 100 times harder than everybody else. You know, imposter syndrome. You know, we've talked about that before, right?
I have that every day, yeah.
And I felt a lot of that, and it's funny because I talked to, you know, this is one of the things I worked on with my therapist, and he goes, well, tell me a little bit more about the program. Like, were there, you know, 30 of you, 40 of you in this program? I said, no, like, of the 30 applicants, they only selected 6. He goes, oh, God. They took a whole 6 and you were one of them?
Yeah,
Like, he very sarcastic about it. And I was like, yeah. I was like, but that doesn't, I got lucky. Right?
That's
like,
how I do it all the time.
Like, my essay was good. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
well, why was your essay good, Jason?
Yeah, well, it's just luck.
Oh,
Pure luck.
right.
Pure luck.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is one of the great things.
You all know that's because of your parents, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the luck is from my parents. Yeah,
No. The reason why you thought you were lucky.
Yeah.
Versus deserving.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say his dad ghost wrote his essay.
I don't want to talk about it. But, you know.
You said what? Why does this happen?
He said, I don't want to talk about it.
About what?
My dad ghostwriting my entrance.
He was we can't tell him that because they'll take his PhD away.
Yeah. But, you know, my therapist has always been really great about that. He's like, oh, I mean, come on, look at you. You only got a PhD. Could have tried a little harder.
You could have.
Yeah.
Isn't there something after PhD?
Well, in Germany,
Why?
actually, most European countries, you finish a PhD, then you have to do like a second dissertation.
That's why
because everyone in Germany has a PhD,
and that's why they have Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
over there in Europe.
Yeah.
So you, your PhD's in theology as well.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in your PhD program, is that when you met your current wife?
Yes.
Okay. How'd you meet her?
Wow, we're going to put it all out there.
That's right, buddy.
So I was adjunct professor at
Okay.
a small college in Arlington, Virginia, and she was a student at the school.
Gotcha.
Never a student of mine.
Oh.
Viewers, I would like to clarify,
Yes.
never
Yes.
a student of mine. But we met through someone who was a student of mine. One day during spring break, we all went to the library at Catholic University. They were working on their bachelor's thesis, and
They want to know how much younger she was.
She's 9 years younger than I am. So I was 30 at the time. She was 21.
Okay. So, actually, to backtrack, your first wife, did she meet your parents?
Yes.
Do all that?
Yes.
Both of them?
Yes.
And was there like a healthy relationship? Like, did you go to their houses for Christmas? That type of thing?
Yeah. We actually spent more time at her family's for Christmas.
Yeah. It sounds like it was probably better.
Yeah.
Even with the manic depression?
Yeah. It was. But again, my parents, like, no emotion. So there's like never, I would almost rather there be like too much weird emotion than no
Too much
emotion.
like stroking of face.
Yeah. So that definitely met my parents.
So your second wife, how long did you guys date?
Cradle robber.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
We dated for 2009. Got married in 2011. So 2 years.
2 years. And you guys have 2 kids, right?
We have 2 kids.
Okay. So how old are your kids?
3.5 and 14 months.
Woo!
Yeah. We're right in the thick of it.
Yeah. Oh man. God damn that. Jesus. So do either of them have jobs?
I think the youngest could be a model. We just haven't gotten him any gigs yet.
Well, it's probably drooling.
Yeah, it's a lot of
himself.
drool.
So when you found out that your wife was pregnant, did you start to worry about?
Fuck, man, I did not. That's actually when I started my first round of therapy, but with a different therapist.
Okay.
And a lot of that was focused on just my sheer fear of being a father and like not being able to cope with it, not talking about it, just 100% convinced that I was just going to be a total fuck up as being a father, right? Because of the example that had been set for me.
Yeah. So were you able to talk with your wife about that as well?
No, I really struggled with that. That was challenging because I wanted to be excited and I knew she was excited, and I was excited, but it was really tempered with this like fear of what was going to happen, but I think she knew it, right? And she was the one that gently nudged me into therapy so that I could start dealing with this stuff and talking about it.
So I think I don't have any kids, right? Thank God. But I think it's a universal thing. It has to be, especially the first time you're a parent. It's got to be terrifying.
Oh yeah,
without all the other baggage that you're talking about. So did you give yourself a break about that?
No, not really.
No.
There is that fear, and there's also the you show up. You get home from the hospital the first day and there's just this, why did they let us come home?
Yeah.
We can't, how are we supposed to keep this thing alive? We're not going to be able to do that. But there's just this constant fear of I'm going to kill these children.
Because you're not nourishing them.
Right. And, or they're going to end up in therapy, 30 years from now because I was neglectful or I didn't know how to express my emotions in a healthy way.
Well, I remember, last Memorial Day.
Yeah.
Came over for dinner.
Yep.
And your youngest he's a little guy.
Yeah.
He's a real little guy, and he was just kind of sitting there drooling, staring at shit. Mm-hmm. And your older one, he was running all over the place, and you were just so patient with him that I saw you were falling after him. And I remember he went into another room and yelled something. You go, "Yes, my love," and then you went in there and you read him the Casper bed book.
Yeah, the Casper bed book.
Yeah, you just got a Casper bed. And you had the bed. So
Highball.
What?
Highball.
That is all. Thank you. So. How have you dealt with having kids?
It has been challenging. I think you got to experience Micah in a really sweet phase, that 18 months to 2 years, 26 months is just a great time. He's fun. He's exploring the world, has a lot of questions, and I think I really enjoyed him during that time. And then, when things started to get tough, when he hit 3 and then the second baby comes along and just trying to navigate his emotions and how do I react to these things and understanding that, he's having these outbursts because he is a tiny human with a lot of emotions that he doesn't know how to express. And
but you kind of expect him to be more of a be more of an adult.
Yeah, exactly. Like, right, I have very short fuse with him. It's something that I still work on. I appreciate you talking about how patient I was with him. It's something that that I have to work on every single day, right? Like, I have to be diligent about being patient with him because it is a challenge. You're right. It's something happens when you have a second child, and maybe Brock can kind of attest to this, right? You almost expect the older one to instantly grow up, right? And
it's like I can't take
care of push them to, right?
Yeah, or we push them to.
It's that you actually create that scenario.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And
you're the big sister.
Yeah. We need you to step up.
Yeah. You're responsible for this person.
Yeah. And my wife has been so great about it. She's done a ton of research, and she's just so much smarter about this stuff than I am. She's just very intuitive and
about the sibling relationships and parent to kids relationships.
No, just about kids and understanding their biology and kind of the way that they work. And I will never forget the day she looked at me and said, "He's 3. He is still a baby." Right? Like, he is.
Had you gotten frustrated with him?
Yeah. And I was like, shit, that's so true. Right? Like, he's still figuring out how the world works. Mm-hmm. He still says words wrong. And he's
the president. Oh, wait, no, sorry.
Yeah, he's the president. Yes, true. So that was very eye-opening for me, but it's still something that I struggle with. And wanting, because Asher is at this point where he needs a ton
Asher's
of
the youngest.
Okay. That needs a ton of attention. Is constantly needing to be held right now, and it's like, look, dude, I got enough energy for this guy.
Yeah.
Right. And
do you split it up with your?
We do. If we're both at home, we split it up. But she's staying at home right now with them, and when I come home, I kind of want to give her a break too.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
She's spent 10 hours with them, and.
Do you kind of want to, or do you feel obligated?
No, I legitimately want to. There's no doubt that I miss my kids during the day, and I really look forward to that time together at night with them. But it's also you can't be needy right now because he's needy right now,
and I don't know how to navigate.
I don't know how to navigate both of you. Yeah.
And then, do you just get angry?
Yeah, anger happens, or frustrated.
I get angry very quickly when things aren't working the way I need them to be working.
Yeah, or if I have a plan and things don't go according to that plan. And it's really tough right now because Micah's doing a lot about reading emotions, and he'll say, "Daddy, are you angry right now?" And I'll say, "No, I'm not angry." And he'll say, "Well, what face do you have?"
Oh, they've got he looks at charts of faces.
No, this was even before any of that started. We did finally get him a book.
Yeah.
But even before any of that started, he would say, "What face do you have?" Because that's what he's reading is your face.
So does he kind of look
at you? Yeah. So I'd have to either say, "Oh, I have my smiling face," or "I have my normal face," or I am a little frustrated right now, and kind of talk through that. But one of the biggest things I've learned is the important thing is to get down on his level. Right? No matter what, if he's having an outburst or he's having trouble expressing his emotions, it's all right, Asher, you get in your crib and you're gonna scream for 5 minutes, but I gotta talk to your brother and get down on his level, get face to face with him, and just because he will express it. You just have to ask the right questions. And sometimes they're guiding questions, but it helps to understand what it is that's frustrating.
So do you see how committed you are to this, and how really good it is, how hard you try?
Yeah.
I never had any of these conversations that I can recall.
Yeah, I can see that. I appreciate you saying that. And I think that I'm trying to be very conscious of it, and I'm extraordinarily lucky to have a partner who constantly reminds me of this, right? And pushes me to be better because she knows of all the hangups I have around my parents and what I don't want to be as a parent. So that is very helpful, but it's a battle every day.
Does your oldest, does he ever ask where his grandpa is?
No,
he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. They've maybe seen each other on FaceTime like once or twice, but he never asks.
Okay.
Except for when presents come. Then he wants Grandpa to come and bring
the presents.
Bring more presents.
You say my present to you is he's not coming.
Yes. Yeah.
So, I told you something my sister said to me, and she said it on this show a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to misquote it, so I'm sorry, but it's like having a child. When you have a child, you agree to let your heart live on the outside of your body. Yeah. Which is a very visceral thing. Yeah. So, even when you're frustrated with him, do you ever have struggles where you worry? Like, if I had a kid, I'd be so worried that something was going to happen to me constantly. Yeah. No, that is, especially when my anxiety is really bad, that happens. A couple of weeks ago, he's got this thing now that whenever the front door or the apartment door opens, he runs out. We live in a 6 flat, and he runs up to the neighbors upstairs and just stands. So that's 6 flat, meaning 2 on each.
Yeah, we're on the 2nd floor, so he runs up to the 3rd floor. So I had to trudge up the steps and pick him up because he's not going to come back down. And I, picked him up, and typical reaction when he doesn't want to go do something is he tries to wiggle, and it's an open stairway, and I kind of clutched onto him, but at that moment, all I could picture was him plummeting down those 3 floors.
Out of your arms. Yeah,
out of my arms. And that, I was in a bad place with some anxiety, and that, stuck with me for, a week and a half. I'd close my eyes and I'd see it. I'd be awake and I'd see it.
It's all you could think of. Yeah. Would you kind of obsess over it?
Yeah.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
And was it something that that sort of something so terrible, was that like a distraction from your anxiety? You think it was your brain trying to?
I think that's a good way of putting it. That I use that as a way to not focus on the fact that I was having a tough time at work, so this mental image would kind of shock me out of that.
How did your anxiety manifest?
It's usually I'm already a very introverted person. I think I become even more introverted when I become anxious, and it's my temper gets much shorter. And the only every emotion I express, whether it's sadness, whatever, is it comes out as anger. I stop being able to communicate. It's just anger.
Does that remind you of your dad?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Do you think that you're just... I'm kind of that way too, right? And when I look back on it, when I'm the hardest to be around, so most of the time, is when I'm really anxious. Yeah. And it's you know, but you don't know, and I just become this whirling dervish, and it's just it emanates off of me. Yeah. And it's
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
See how angry I'm getting?
Happy birthday, dear Kevin. Happy birthday to you.
Well
done.
How about that? You only turned 37 once.
Really?
I don't know.
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, you're
Let's move along.
Old man. So you thank you, everybody. I just want to ask you one other thing. So, are you able to talk about that stuff with your wife about the thing about your son and accidentally?
Yeah,
do you feel comfortable talking?
I do. Sometimes I don't, because I know how irrational it is. Right, this image that I have in my head, of that happening. But I do feel comfortable talking to her about it, and mainly because, my journey of therapy has been a roller coaster. I was very resistant to it for a long time. Didn't start doing it until it was I really it is not going is hampering my ability to be a human.
Yeah.
And I think that she was a big part of that. And her biggest thing has always been, I just want us to communicate. I just want us to communicate, right? Like, we are in this partnership together. We are in this relationship for the long haul. Like, if we don't have that piece of this, like, none of this is going to work. So, communication is not something that I'm great at, but it is something that I am becoming more conscious about and more open to.
And you said, I know it's rational. And that made me think of when I have to tell people stuff that I'm worried about. It's usually something crazy and irrational, and I don't. Uh-oh. Oh, is it bright? Hi. Hi.
You coming in?
Oh, we got guests. Hi. How's your tooth?
Do you want to show everybody?
You want to show everybody your tooth? Here.
There we go. There we go.
There she is.
What do you have to say to Kevin?
He's old.
Old.
Oh, you're not going to do it?
No.
All right, come here.
Better go
Give
back to
Kevin
bed.
a high five.
You ready?
High five.
Can I have one too? All right.
Bye.
Back to bed.
Okay.
That was the best interruption.
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm going to ask you one more question. I think we're going to end.
All right.
So the thing I was getting at is, like, when I have a lot of my fears are these crazy irrational things. I obsessed that I was going to die in the electric chair when I was a kid. The really weird shit, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
After 9/11,
Yeah.
I was absolutely convinced that I was going to either get camel pox or.
What's camel?
So this is when this
Like
was
anthrax?
after 9/11, and then after the anthrax scare.
Uh-huh.
I started doing all this research about, like, ricin, sarin gas, camel pox, which is a thing. Like, being used as biological weapons, and I obsessed over that, and I was so convinced that, like, that was how it was
Like
gonna
somebody,
die.
like you were.
Most
just-
people are now convinced that you committed crimes as a child.
That I committed crimes as a
Yes,
child.
absolutely.
No, I did melt a crayon, a brown crayon, with a magnifying glass on the walking stones at my parents' house. One of the worst ass beatings I ever got
Was for that?
was for that.
For a crayon melting?
Yep, for a crayon. I did not. I am not a serial killer, so I did not commit crimes
That's
as
good.
a child.
So wait, camel pox.
Mm-hmm.
You were afraid like you were going to be a victim of a terrorist
Yeah.
attack? Okay.
Yeah.
And would that
Kevin!
would that prevent you from going out?
Yeah.
It would, because you're afraid you were going to be in a situation.
Yeah.
And would you feel shame because you didn't
Yeah.
go out?
Yeah.
And would you then kind of go on that cycle?
Oh yeah.
Were
Absolutely.
you married at that time?
No, I was still in college.
You were still in college. Could you tell anybody about
No.
that? No. So if you didn't go out, you would just say, "I'm not feeling well."
I didn't go out much anyway.
Oh,
I
no.
mean, I was spending 12 hours a day in the library. So.
Yeah. Well, you're not that smart.
No. Well, that's why I had to spend
That's
12
right.
hours a day in the library.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No,
You're very
I know.
smart. Jason, my friend, thank you so much for
Yeah,
coming
thank
on.
you, Kevin.
Hold
this
up.
is awesome.
Hold up.
People have some questions.
Oh.
We're going to do a few questions. Yeah.
All right.
Hit me with it.
So, is anybody afraid of clowns?
I'm not.
No.
Okay. Kevin,
Yeah.
what are your feelings about the electric chair?
Yeah, tell us more about that.
So I saw a TV movie where somebody died in the electric chair, and then I thought I was going to die in the electric chair. And then I obsessed over it for weeks and months. And I had a full breakdown on the streets of Chicago and had a
Holy
panic
shit.
attack. My dad had to take me back to the hotel. My thoughts on the electric chair are that it's inhumane and awful. But I don't worry about it like I used to.
Which is why you should die that way.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Is that
How about Pennywise?
Yeah, come on. Pennywise isn't real.
I love that book and that movie.
Do you know fear of clowns?
No fear
When I
of
was a
clowns.
kid, the TV movie of it scared the shit out of me.
But it's Tim
And
Curry.
how so? How so?
One morning, the night before we went, the night it was on TV, we just watched a little bit of it, my sister and I. Maybe my mom, I don't know. And we had to walk to Denise's house the next morning, and I could not get the vision of the clown down in the holding balloons, and it just really bothered me. I didn't like it. Now it doesn't bother me, but it did then.
And carnies?
Carnies are good people.
Yeah.
Support your local carnies.
Yeah, that's right.
Support your local carny.
Mm-hmm.
And what about the Poltergeist movie?
I barely remember that. All I remember in that movie is why the hell did they let that kid go to bed with a baseball hat on?
Yeah.
That never made any sense to me. My parents would never let me do that. I
And
could
Cole's
never wear
biggest fear is Little House on the Prairie.
Little House on the Prairie.
Well, that's a terrifying life. You're bound to die by the time you're 21.
That's true. Well, look at Michael Landon. He's dead.
He's dead.
Yeah.
And did anybody actually fear death as a child?
Yes. I feared death, and I feared eternal life very much because I didn't know what I was going to do for all that time, and it got me very upset.
I don't fear death, like as an adult. Though I do hope to be one of the first people to live to be like 150.
Do you really want to?
But it's not because I'm afraid to die.
Uh-huh.
It's just look at all the shit I could do in the next 110 years.
Yeah. And then,
What would you do?
I'd read a lot of books.
that's fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Does anybody have chronic nosebleeds that make them think they're going to die because M. Cole needs someone to talk to about this?
No, M. Cole. Let me tell you this. I am a hypochondriac, self-diagnosed. That shit is real. And, I have had every disease known to mankind.
You too?
Yeah. And you're going to get through it. You're going to get through it. I'm
Like
not going to help you.
I'm
not going to help you.
I'm not going to
Cole.
touch the blood.
No. I'm probably not going to look at you either, but
No.
you'll get through it.
Same question to both of you.
Yeah.
What is the worst disease that you thought you might have had at any one point? How did that affect your mental stability? And how did you get over it?
You want to go first?
I mean, it's cancer. Like, I just assumed that I'm going to get some sort of cancer. My uncle had this extremely rare form of stomach cancer that, like, was...
do you take
couldn't do
Valium
anything.
for it?
Couldn't... Maybe that made it worse. I don't know. They couldn't do anything about it. It was just slow-growing cancer, and it just slowly killed him over 10 years. Like, I think
And
that's...
they knew there was cancer.
Oh, yeah.
And they couldn't get to it with chemo or any of that awful shit?
No.
Mine was AIDS when I was 11.
Yeah. It's just a natural time for a boy to get AIDS.
Well, it's because my dad took us to see Philadelphia. I don't know what the hell.
What?
So that's probably the worst.
She's funny.
Yeah, that's right. AIDS or every STD.
This is the worst episode of Bosom Buddies I've ever sing.
How many times do you actually think you've had an STD, Kevin?
Ooh.
Like instances?
Yeah, how many days of your
Oh,
life
days.
have the thought that you might have an STD occurred?
I'm going to say minimum of 700.
Clean you up!
700. Minimum.
700 days.
That thought has occurred or I've obsessed over it? Sure.
Or that you've actually had the STD.
I have one STD. I have HPV.
Okay.
Genital warts. But
Do you feel like talking about that?
do I feel like talking about the warts that grew on my penis?
Yeah.
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'll be the next show.
That'll be the next
Not
episode.
sad.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Jesus Christ. All right. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching, Jason.
Yeah,
man.
thanks,
for
buddy.
coming in.
Appreciate
it. And good luck with surgery tomorrow.
Thank you.
Tubes.
Appreciate it. Yes.
See you guys next week. Guest still yet to be named, but we're working on it.
You've been listening to a Fourth Hand Joint.